In this tutorial, we're going to create the geometry for the joinery for the front rails, along with the front rails themselves. Now I'm noticing that there's a few dimensions that we're going to be repeating, so I'm going to put in some more parameters. So we just go to Modify, Change Parameters, and we're going to add some new parameters. So rail width is coming up a bit, and that's 125. Just means we can change it later if we want to. The other one that's coming up is we're going to start creating some housings for some dominoes, and dominoes come in set sizes. So by putting these parameters in, it means that you can actually change the size of the dominoes in the real world. So we're going to have domino thickness, and that's 8 in this case, but we can change that. And also the width of the domino. It's kind of like the width of the slot that we're going to cut that it goes into. And that's going to be 14 millimeters. Okay, so you'll see they'll come in handy fairly soon. Okay, so we're going to start a new sketch, and we're going to go off this inside face of the front leg. I'll come in nice and close. So I'm going to create a rectangle. Now, of course, I've got my shape up there. I've got more options here. But in this case, I'm just going to use the keyboard shortcut. And I'm going to go from this top corner here across. And so the first thing I'm going to have here is material thickness. So material thickness, tab, and then this is just going to be 68. Enter. Okay, so we've got that there. So that's basically sort of the outline of the top rail. We're going to do the same again for the bottom rail. Now there's two front rails. Because there's a drawer going in at the front, we have a top rail and we've got a bottom rail, and the drawer goes in between. So again, we'll do a 2-point rectangle. Now where we start, this doesn't matter so long as it's on this line. And we're going to come out, and again, we're just going to go material thickness. So we've got that, tab, 68, enter. Now we want to locate this. And basically in terms of our design, we want the bottom of this rail to line up with this piece here on the side, with the side rail. So that's where that rail width parameter is coming in handy. So I'm going to put in a dimension. I'm going to go from that point there up to the top, and we'll come out and rail width. Enter. 125. So you can see it's 125, and you can see it's lining up down there. Okay, so now what we've got to do is we've got to set up our housings for our dominoes. Now these are a little bit complicated because we are going to be using a particular special domino, which is actually a knockdown domino. So you can actually pull the table apart and put it back together again. I'm going to put in one more parameter. We're going to call this domino setting. And in this case, it's going to be 6 millimeters. Now that might not make a lot of sense at the moment, but basically what it relates to is when you cut a domino, you need to reference off a surface. And depending on what setting you get, the actual edge of the housing will be a certain distance from that reference surface. Certainly when you're in the workshop, you'll understand what's going on here. Okay, we're going to set up for our dominoes now, or the housings for our dominoes. So we're going to need to draw another rectangle. So I just want to snap it onto that line there. Now the first dimension there, that is going to be domino thickness. So we've got that there. Then we'll go tab. This one is going to be 18. Then enter. Okay, so the other thing that we need to do is this domino setting parameter. So we're going to put that in here. So D for dimension. And we'll come out. And that's domino setting. So that should be 6 millimeters. So that places that 6 millimeters down from the top. Okay, one more thing we need to do. We need to be realistic about how dominoes cut. And it actually cuts sort of a slot with rounded ends. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create an arc, and it's going to be a tangent arc. And I'll come in close and I'll just go from that point there to that point there. There we go. We've now got our sort of geometry set up there. Now we do need to go and do it back down here. Now theoretically we could just copy and paste that down there, but it can create some little problems. So we're just going to go through it again. I'll just do it quietly and quickly. So R for rectangle. Okay, now you can see I've just got to put in that one more dimension there. So the domino setting. So that's now got it in the right place. You can see it's not perfectly centered on that. And that's because we're actually using a machine that operates in the real world, and it has certain settings that it can operate with. So it won't put it in the middle. The main thing is that we have it in the right place. Okay. So we've achieved that. So we're going to finish that sketch off. Now we can see that everything there is black. But the other thing that I'll do, this actually gives you a really good amount of information on all of the dimensions that we want to operate with there. Okay, so we've got that. So we'll finish that sketch. Okay, so we can do a couple of things now. So firstly, what we can do is we can cut the housings into the leg here. So we'll go back up into our extrude. We've just got to be careful to select all of the geometry that we want to select. So we're going to obviously do our add to selection. So we've got that. I'm just going to press the shift key. I need that. And then down here, we're going to do the same here again. So shift. So we should have all of that. And we're going to cut, and it's going to be minus 12 millimeters. And you'll see there the operation is cut. So we've got OK. So we've got that cut into the leg. Okay, so that's a really good point there that we've gotten to. Now, the domino itself is 40 millimeters long, but we're only going to cut it 12 millimeters into the leg, and the remaining 28 millimeters we're going to actually cut into the rail. And if I orbit around, you'll see why. You can see that we don't want to go too much further. I'll just pan down because it'll start cutting into the rail here. So we want to keep a little bit of timber just at the back there to give it a bit of strength. So now we're going to move on to the front rails. We're going to start a new sketch, but we're going to actually reference off the sketch that we were working on previously. So normally when you have a sketch open, it's only that sketch that you can see, but you can turn these other sketches on or off as required. So we'll start with create sketch. We're going to go off this sketch plane, but then what I'm going to do here, so obviously if that's looking like that, just open it up, and we're going to turn on sketch 5 so that we can actually see it. So I'm going to start in here with a rectangle, and I want to go from this point here. And then I'm going to use my parameters here. So the first one is domino thickness, and then I'm going to press tab, and the second one is domino width. Enter. Okay, so we've got the rectangle, and then again we just need to create these arcs at both ends. So we'll go arc, tangent arc, from there to there. You can't really see it because it's going over the other one, but it is there. And from there to there. Okay, so we've got that. So far, so good. Now we'll go down and we'll basically do the same down here. Go back to our arcs. Okay, we've got all that. Now what I'm going to do, just to make sure that everything's looking all right, I'm just going to turn the sketch that's sitting underneath off and just have a look at that. So I can see all the lines there are black, so they're all fully defined, so that's good. So we'll finish that sketch. Now we'll create the front rails. So what I want to do here is I'm just going to turn off sketch 6 and have sketch 5 so that it's visible. And we're going to extrude. So we'll come in and we'll just make sure that we select everything that we want to extrude. So again, add to selection by holding down the Shift key. So we've got that down there, and we're going to do the bottom rail at the same time. So holding the Shift key. So we should have 8 pieces selected, and it should be a new body. And we're going to go out 150 millimeters. So I'm just going to zoom out so we can see that a little bit better. And we want to change this operation from join to new body. Okay. So I'll just go back to my home view. So you can see that there. And if we go up here into our bodies menu, you can see that 2 more bodies have been created. Okay, we're going to just change the view a little bit. To there. Okay, and then what I want to do is I'm going to hide a few things. So I'm just going to hide that leg, and I'm going to hide the side rail. I'm also going to turn on sketch 6 and turn sketch 5 off. So this was the one where we put in sort of the slightly different geometry. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to create the housings for our dominoes here. So again, it's extrude. And I want to get all of the geometry. So 1, 2, 3. So I'm just holding down that Shift key while I select. 1, 2, 3. And the operation is going to be a cut. And this is going to go 28 millimeters. And go OK. So we'll zoom back out. Yep, very good. Okay, so as before, we've basically got two half rails there. So we're going to mirror them again. I might just change my view. So create, mirror. We're going to mirror bodies. So I'm going to select that body and that body. So I've got 2 selected. And then the mirror plane is going to be there. And the operation is join. Okay. So now you can see 2 front rails. Now what I can do is I can select body 2, right click, create component. You can see that down there. And I'm just going to rename it right now. So rename, and I'm going to call it top rail. Got that. And then body 3, I'm going to create that now into a component, because obviously it's now the fully completed geometry for the real world. And I'm going to call that bottom rail. Okay, so now we can start unhiding a few things there. So in the next tutorial, we're going to pretty much do the same thing at the back. We're going to create the geometry for the dominoes for the back rail, and then the back rail, and then we can move on and mirror this side sub-assembly, and we've pretty much then got the overall frame for our project complete.